That summer, forever etched in my memory, was when everything took an unexpected turn. It was meant to be a straightforward escape, an opportunity to breathe in the fresh, crisp country air at my grandparents' farm, where the sky stretched endlessly above us. My friends and I meticulously planned this trip as a much-needed respite from the relentless pace of city life, an opportunity to unplug and immerse ourselves in the simplicity and calm of rural surroundings. We envisioned days filled with laughter and relaxation, completely unaware that the farm was a keeper of secrets, dark, unsettling secrets that would continue to haunt us long after we departed. The initial days unfolded like a dream, a serene and picturesque escape from reality. We roamed the expansive fields, swam in the refreshing river, and savored the sumptuous meals my grandmother lovingly prepared, each dish a testament to her culinary skills. The farm was the epitome of tranquility, its vast stretches of wheat swaying gently in the breeze, accompanied by the distant lowing of cows in the fields. Yet, as the sun descended below the horizon, casting elongated shadows over the landscape, an inexplicable sense of unease began to creep into our consciousness, a feeling we couldn't quite shake off. It all began with the sounds, subtle at first. Initially, we dismissed them as the natural creaks and groans of an old farmhouse settling into the night, mere background noise to our idyllic retreat. However, the noises soon took on a more distinct character, whispers that seemed to float through the very walls, soft footsteps echoing in the corridors, and the distant cry of something that wasn't quite animal. Jake, my friend with an insatiable curiosity, was the first to bring it up, his voice tinged with both intrigue and unease. "Do you guys hear that at night?" he inquired, his eyes scanning our faces in search of reassurance, hoping he wasn't the only one experiencing this eerie phenomenon. We laughed it off, attributing it to the whims of the wind or the playful imaginations of city kids unaccustomed to the sounds of the countryside. Yet, as the nights dragged on, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, as if they were desperately trying to convey a message that eluded our comprehension, a message hidden within the very fabric of the farm itself. One evening, as the sun set in a breathtaking blaze of orange and pink, painting the sky with vibrant hues, we made the decision to explore the old barn situated at the edge of the property. It had stood abandoned for years, its wooden beams weathered and sagging under the relentless weight of time, a monument to a bygone era. Armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure, we ventured inside, our footsteps reverberating in the cavernous space, each step echoing through the silence. The air was thick with dust, swirling in the beams of our flashlights as they danced across the walls, revealing faded photographs and rusted tools, remnants of a past life. It was then that we saw it, a shadow flitting across the far wall, too quick and too deliberate to be dismissed as a mere trick of the light. We froze, our hearts pounding in unison, a shared moment of fear and awe. "Did you see that?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible, a tremor betraying her calm exterior. We nodded, our earlier bravado replaced by a growing sense of dread, an acknowledgement of the unknown. As we turned to leave, a chill swept through the barn, and the whispers returned, louder and more urgent, as if the very walls were speaking to us, urging us to uncover the truth hidden within their depths, a truth that demanded to be heard. That night, sleep eluded us. We huddled together in the living room, the flickering light of the fireplace casting eerie shadows on the walls, shadows that seemed to dance to the rhythm of our unease. My grandfather, sensing our disquiet, shared stories of the farm's history, tales of settlers and hardships, of lives lost and dreams shattered, stories that painted a picture of resilience and tragedy. But there was one story he hesitated to tell, his eyes clouded with memories too painful to revisit, a story that lingered on the tip of his tongue. As the days passed, the occurrences became more frequent, more pronounced. Objects would move on their own, disappearing and reappearing in the most unexpected places, as if guided by unseen hands. The whispers grew louder, forming words that were almost intelligible, words that seemed to hover just out of reach. And then there were the sightings, glimpses of figures in the fields, watching us with eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness, eyes that held untold stories. Sarah was the first to suggest that the farm might be haunted, her voice a mixture of skepticism and belief. We laughed at the notion, but deep down, we all felt it, the presence of something beyond our understanding, something that defied logic and reason, something that demanded answers. Desperate for answers, we decided to investigate further, delving into the farm's past and the lives of those who had called it home, determined to uncover the truth. Our search led us to the local library, where we pored over old newspapers and records, piecing together a history that was both fascinating and terrifying, a history that spoke of love and loss, of joy and sorrow. The farm, it seemed, had been the site of a series of tragic events, a fire that had claimed the lives of an entire family, mysterious disappearances, and tales of a curse that had plagued the land for generations, a curse that still lingered in the whispers of the fields. Armed with this knowledge, we returned to the farm, determined to confront whatever force was at play, determined to bring peace to the restless spirits. That night, as the wind howled outside and the whispers reached a fever pitch, we gathered in the barn once more, our hearts united in purpose. We lit candles and formed a circle, our hands clasped tightly as we called out to the spirits that lingered in the shadows, spirits that had become a part of our lives. The temperature dropped suddenly, our breath visible in the frigid air, a testament to the presence of the supernatural. And then, we saw them, figures emerging from the darkness, their faces etched with sorrow and longing, faces that spoke of a past filled with heartache. They moved towards us, their whispers forming a chorus of voices that filled the barn with a haunting melody, a melody that resonated with the pain of the past. In that moment, I understood. They were not here to harm us, but to seek our help, to find closure for the tragedies that had bound them to this place, their souls trapped in a cycle of grief and despair. We listened as they shared their stories, their pain and suffering laid bare before us, stories that demanded to be heard and remembered. With each word, the weight on my chest lifted, replaced by a sense of purpose, a purpose that transcended the boundaries of life and death. We vowed to honor their memory, to share their stories and ensure that they would not be forgotten, to give them the peace they so desperately sought. As the first light of dawn broke through the barn's windows, the figures began to fade, their whispers growing softer until they were no more, their presence a gentle reminder of the past. The farm, once shrouded in mystery and fear, was now a place of peace and healing, a testament to the power of understanding and compassion. The whispers had ceased, and the shadows that had haunted us were gone, leaving behind a sense of tranquility. We left that summer with a newfound respect for the past and the understanding that some stories are meant to be told, no matter how haunting they may be, stories that bridge the gap between the living and the dead. To this day, I carry the memories of that summer with me, a reminder that the line between the living and the dead is thinner than we might think, and that the past is never truly gone. It lingers in the whispers of the fields, waiting for someone to listen, waiting for someone to understand. And as I reflect on those days, I realize that the past is not just a memory, but a part of us, a part of the present that shapes our future, a legacy that we must honor and cherish. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. I remember vividly the creaking floors and the ever-present scent of lavender that seemed to linger perpetually in my grandmother's house. Each step on those floors was like a gentle reminder of the years that had passed, the stories that had unfolded within those walls. It was a quaint little cottage, nestled comfortably in a sleepy town that seemed to have forgotten the rest of the world existed. The town itself was a relic of the past, with cobblestone streets and old brick buildings that whispered tales of bygone eras. The house was a place of comfort and warmth, a sanctuary where time seemed to stand still and worries melted away like snowflakes on a warm window pane. My grandmother, a sprightly woman with a thick Irish accent that sang like a melody, was the heart and soul of that home. Her laughter was infectious, her stories captivating, and her presence a balm to the soul. She had immigrated from Ireland many years ago, bringing with her the warmth and rich traditions of her homeland, which she cherished deeply. Her tales of the rolling green hills and misty mornings of Ireland painted vivid pictures in my mind, filling me with a longing for a place I had never seen. Unbeknownst to me at the time, she also carried with her a dark secret, one that would eventually reveal itself in the most unsettling of ways, casting a long shadow over our peaceful lives. Life with her was a series of comforting routines: morning tea with biscuits, afternoon walks through the lush garden, and evenings spent by the crackling fire, sharing stories and laughter that echoed through the cozy rooms. Each day was a tapestry woven with love and tradition, a rhythm that brought comfort and joy. The garden was her pride and joy, a riot of colors and scents that seemed to bloom eternally. The rhythm of our days was soothing, a gentle cadence that lulled me into a sense of security and belonging, a feeling as comforting as a soft, warm blanket. Yet, there was one ritual that always stood out, one that I couldn't quite understand, no matter how hard I tried to decipher its meaning. Every night, as the clock struck midnight, she would light a single candle and murmur words in Irish, her voice a soft chant that echoed through the walls, filling the house with an air of mystery and intrigue. The candlelight flickered like a living entity, casting shadows that danced across the walls, adding to the enigma of the moment. It was a ritual that seemed both ancient and mysterious, and I was never allowed to watch. Curiosity often got the better of me, and I'd find myself peeking through the keyhole, trying to decipher the mystery of her midnight vigil, wondering what secrets lay hidden behind those closed doors, what ancient truths were being whispered into the night. It was during one of those clandestine observations that I first noticed something was amiss. Her shadow, cast by the flickering candlelight, seemed to move independently, stretching and contorting in ways that defied logic and reason, as if it had a life of its own. It was as if another presence lurked within her shadow, something that was not quite human, something otherworldly and unsettling. The sight sent a chill down my spine, and I pulled away from the keyhole, my heart racing with fear and confusion, my mind struggling to comprehend what I had just witnessed. The room seemed to close in on me, the air thick with an unspoken tension that pressed down like a weight. I wanted to ask her about it, to understand what I had seen, but something held me back. Perhaps it was the fear of disrupting the fragile balance of our lives, or maybe it was the unspoken understanding that some things were better left unexplored, hidden in the shadows where they belonged, undisturbed by the light of day. "Not," she would whisper, her voice tinged with fear and urgency, her eyes wide with a knowing that I could not fathom. "Not today." The word seemed to hold a power, a warning of something lurking just beyond the veil of reality, waiting to pounce and shatter our world. It was as if the word itself was a talisman, a protective charm against the unknown. I didn't understand what "not" meant, but the word haunted me. It lingered in my mind, a shadowy presence that refused to be ignored, gnawing at the edges of my consciousness, demanding attention and understanding. I found myself repeating it under my breath, as if trying to unlock its secrets, to understand the depth of its meaning and the weight it carried, hoping that somehow the repetition would reveal its mysteries to me. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, I found myself alone in the house. My grandmother had gone to town, leaving me with strict instructions to stay indoors and keep the doors locked, an unusual request that filled me with unease. The house, usually filled with warmth and laughter, felt different in her absence, the silence stretching like a living thing. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, and I could feel the chill of unease settling in my bones, a coldness that seemed to seep into my very soul. The house seemed different without her presence, the familiar rooms suddenly foreign and filled with shadows that seemed to move and whisper secrets I couldn't comprehend, secrets that danced just out of reach. That's when I saw it. A figure standing at the end of the hallway, shrouded in darkness. It looked like my grandmother, but there was something off. Her eyes were vacant, her smile too wide, too forced, as if someone had taken her likeness and twisted it into something grotesque and unnatural. The sight was both familiar and alien, a distortion of the woman I loved. I blinked, and she was gone, leaving only the echo of her presence in the empty hall, a haunting reminder of the encounter that left me shaken, my mind racing with questions and fears, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum. Panic surged through me, and I rushed to the living room, hoping to find solace in the familiar surroundings, in the warmth of the fire and the comforting embrace of the old armchair. But the shadows seemed to close in, whispering secrets I couldn't comprehend, filling the room with an oppressive sense of dread that pressed down on me like a weight. I felt a presence, an entity that was both there and not there, watching me with unseen eyes, waiting for the right moment to strike, to reveal itself and its intentions. It was as if the house itself had come alive, the walls closing in around me, suffocating me with their silent whispers, their unspoken truths. When my grandmother returned, I hesitated to tell her what I had seen. But she seemed to know, her eyes scanning the room with a wariness that spoke of years of vigilance and experience, of battles fought in the shadows. Her gaze was sharp, penetrating, as if she could see the very essence of the room. She hugged me tightly, whispering words of comfort, yet I could sense the underlying tension in her voice, the fear that lurked beneath her calm exterior. It was as if she was battling an unseen force, one that threatened to consume us both, to drag us into the shadows where it dwelled, waiting for the moment to strike. "Not as here," she said, her voice barely audible, a mere whisper in the darkness, her eyes filled with a knowledge that I could not grasp. "It mimics, it deceives. But we must not let it in." Her words were a warning, a plea for vigilance and strength, a reminder of the danger that lurked just beyond the edge of our perception, waiting to pounce. I nodded, determined to stand by her side, even as fear gnawed at my insides, threatening to overwhelm me, to pull me into the abyss. As days turned into weeks, the presence of Nat became more pronounced, more insistent, more real. It was as if the very air was charged with its presence, a constant reminder of the unseen battle we were waging. I would catch glimpses of it in mirrors, hear its footsteps echoing mine, feel its breath on the back of my neck, a constant reminder of its presence. It was as if it was trying to seep into our world, to become a part of our lives, to consume everything we held dear, to take from us the light and warmth that we cherished. My grandmother's rituals grew more intense, her chants louder, more desperate, as she fought to keep the darkness at bay, to hold back the tide of shadows that threatened to engulf us. The rituals, once a source of mystery, became a lifeline, a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. I joined her, hoping that together we could keep the darkness at bay, that our combined strength would be enough to ward off the encroaching shadows. But Nat was relentless, its hunger palpable. It seemed to feed off our fear, growing stronger with each passing day, its presence an ever-looming threat that hung over us like a storm cloud. One night, as I lay in bed, I heard a soft knock on my door. My grandmother's voice called out, but something in me knew it wasn't her. There was a hollowness to the sound, a lack of warmth that set my nerves on edge, sending shivers down my spine, filling me with dread. I stayed silent, clutching the blankets as if they could protect me from the malevolent force lurking outside, praying for it to go away, for the nightmare to end, for the dawn to bring light and safety. The door creaked open, and I saw her silhouette, or rather, the thing that wore her shape. It smiled at me, a grotesque parody of my grandmother's warmth, its eyes empty and soulless, its presence a mockery of the love and comfort I had known. The sight was both terrifying and heart-wrenching, a distortion of everything I held dear. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying for it to go away, for the nightmare to end, for the morning light to chase away the shadows, to bring with it the safety and warmth of a new day. When I opened them again, the room was empty, but the sense of dread lingered, a heavy presence that refused to be banished. It was a reminder of the darkness that had seeped into our lives, a constant presence that refused to be banished, a shadow that clung to us, refusing to let go, a reminder of the battle we fought each day. The next morning, my grandmother was gone. I searched the house frantically, calling her name, but there was no answer, only silence and shadows. Her absence was a void, a chasm that seemed impossible to bridge. It was as if she had vanished into thin air, leaving only her candle and the lingering scent of lavender, a haunting reminder of her presence. Desperate and alone, I continued the rituals, hoping to keep Nod at bay, to hold on to the hope that she would return, that her light would once again fill the house with warmth and love. But it was always there, lurking in the shadows, a constant reminder of what I had lost, of the void that had opened in my life, a void that seemed impossible to fill. Days turned into months, and I clung to the hope that my grandmother was still out there, somewhere, waiting to be found, waiting to return to the home she loved. I kept the candle burning, whispering her chants into the night, hoping that one day she would return, that her light would once again fill the house with warmth and love, that the shadows would be banished forever. But deep down, I knew the truth. Nod had taken her, swallowed her light, and left me with nothing but shadows, shadows that threatened to consume me. Yet, I continued the rituals, a silent promise to her and a defiance against the darkness that sought to consume me, a battle that I fought each day. In the end, it was all I could do to hold on to the memories, to fight against the unseen, and to keep the light burning in the hopes that one day, I would find her again. The house, once a sanctuary, had become a battleground, a place where the lines between reality and nightmare blurred, where shadows danced and whispered secrets. Yet, I refused to give in, to let the darkness claim me as it had claimed her. I would fight, for her and for myself, until the very end, determined to keep her memory alive, to honor her legacy, and to stand against the shadows that sought to consume us both. Each day was a testament to her strength, a reminder of the love and warmth she had brought into my life, a promise that I would not let the darkness win. The struggle was constant, but so was my resolve, a tribute to the woman who had taught me the true meaning of courage and love. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. From my earliest memories, the untouched wilderness has always exerted a powerful and almost mystical pull on me. It captivated my imagination and drew me in with a magnetic force that was as mysterious as it was compelling. There was a deep-seated longing within my soul, a yearning I could never quite articulate, to lose myself in the vast embrace of nature. The serenity found in ancient forests, the gentle whisper of the wind weaving through the leaves, and the secrets held by towering mountains called out to me with an undeniable allure. It was the pristine beauty of these places, combined with the promise of hidden wonders waiting to be unearthed, that beckoned to me like the irresistible song of sirens. This profound enchantment with nature had been a constant companion throughout my life, fueling a dream that one day I might become a guardian of these wild lands. When the opportunity finally arose to work as a fire lookout in one of the nation's most expansive and untouched national parks, it felt as if the universe had aligned perfectly to fulfill my deepest aspiration. This job was not merely a position, it was a crucial step toward joining the ranks of park rangers, individuals whom I deeply admired for their unwavering devotion and commitment to preserving the sanctity of nature. The path to this career had been fraught with challenges, countless applications sent and reconsidered, each one an attempt to bridge the gap between my current self and my dreams. And now, after what seemed like an endless period of waiting and hoping, the call had finally come through, igniting a profound joy within me, one that felt almost surreal, as if I were living in a dream. The training that accompanied the position was undeniably rigorous, designed to test our limits and prepare us for the myriad responsibilities that lay ahead. Every routine and procedure was meticulously crafted to ensure that we could handle any potentially dangerous situation with confidence and skill. It was demanding both physically and mentally, yet each day felt invigorated with purpose as I ventured deeper into a realm I had longed to be a part of. There was a certain thrill in gearing up, knowing that every piece of information absorbed was another building block towards achieving my dream. No amount of exhaustion could overshadow the buzz of anticipation I carried with me, as every lesson brought me closer to a reality I had cherished for so long. On the concluding day of our training, the assignments allocated to us bore a weight of responsibility that underscored their importance. My supervisor, Ross, an experienced and knowledgeable guide, entrusted me with the task of identifying potential fire hazards within the park. It was a mission that required not just an eye for detail, but also an understanding of the delicate balance we aimed to maintain. As we embarked on our patrol, scanning the landscape with mindful vigilance, my heart pounded with a mixture of apprehension and eagerness. It wasn't long before the distant sight of smoke served as a harbinger of human interference, an unregistered campfire breaking the rules we swore to uphold. The sight of it sent a ripple through the calm, signaling potential danger that needed to be addressed swiftly. We opted to divide our efforts, with Ross taking the eastern path while I ventured westward, drawn to the smoky tendrils that marred the sky. The depths of the forest held a captivating mystery, each step forward enveloping me in the canopy's embrace. However, as I moved further from the familiar trails, a peculiar stillness began to pervade the air. Where the forest should have sung with life, there was a profound and unsettling silence, a stillness that seemed almost unearthly in its intensity. The vibrant chorus of chirping insects and melodious birdsong was eerily absent, replaced instead by a vacuum of sound that left behind a noticeable void. It was a silence as if the very trees held their breath, impassive witnesses to what lay ahead. It was within this stillness that I stumbled upon something wholly unexpected yet indisputably captivating, a stone archway carved with meticulous precision, revealing itself amidst the dense foliage. The archway appeared ancient, as though it had been standing for centuries, its stone surface etched with intricate symbols that lay beyond my comprehension. It looked as though civilizations long past had left their marks upon it, whispering tales from a time of myth and legend. As I approached closer, a palpable mix of awe and trepidation washed over me. The structure seemed to radiate an aura that was both inviting and foreboding, an enigmatic presence that beckoned the curious insatiably. Compelled by a fascination that bordered on compulsion, I found myself moving forward almost involuntarily, intrigue triumphing over caution as I stepped through the archway. The instant I crossed its threshold, a sweeping sensation of dizziness overtook me, its intensity overwhelming. My equilibrium faltered, and I found myself struggling against a potent wave of disorientation. I pressed on, determined to regain my senses despite the unsettling shift in consciousness. When clarity finally returned, it brought with it a shock that sent shivers through my core. Everything was different. The world I had emerged into resembled our own, yet was disturbingly altered by an indefinable strangeness. Familiar landscapes around me felt slightly skewed, the colors too vibrant, pulsating with an unnatural brilliance. It was a place that seemed crafted from dreams, envisioned through the eyes of a dreamer and brought to life in unsettling abstraction. Shadows cast peculiar shapes, and even the air bore a scent that was foreign to my senses. More unsettling still was the pervasive undercurrent of threat, a sense of impending dread that tainted the fantastical landscape. Out of the periphery, they appeared without warning, grotesque creatures slipping silently from the shadows. While their forms held a semblance of humanity, everything about them was achingly wrong. Skewed features gave them an appearance that was distinctly otherworldly. Their eyes glowed with a piercing, eerie intelligence that seemed to see through me. Low, guttural whispers filled the air, lodging themselves in my mind as a cacophony of disjointed voices. A chilling wave of fear engulfed me, freezing my muscles and thoughts alike. Survival instincts kicked in, adrenaline roaring through my veins as my senses screamed at me to flee, urging escape with an urgency I'd never before experienced. Yet, in the midst of the chaos, a grim realization struck with the force of a physical blow. David, a fellow trainee who had initially set out along a parallel route, was inexplicably missing, his presence wholly absent in the engulfing terror that surrounded me. Panic surged as I called out his name, my voice consumed by the oppressive quiet pressing from all sides. It was as though the very air conspired with the unknown entities to conceal any semblance of familiarity or safety. My internal compass spun wildly, and every path I took seemed to twist back upon itself in an ever-tightening spiral. Hours stretched and warped under the weight of desperation, each moment spent navigating the alien landscape stacking one upon another in mounting dismay. With my resolve dwindling and hope slipping further from reach, a footstep echoed fortuitously upon the threshold. With a mix of relentless determination and sheer fortune, I recovered the path back to the archway. Crossing its boundary felt akin to being released, though the reality I returned to was tainted by the abyss I'd left. Back in the real world, a familiar figure awaited me with apparent worry lining his features. Ross stood by, his expression an amalgam of relief at my return and anger nearing palpable over my inexplicable disappearance. In spite of the bitter reprimand that followed, the sense of relief flooding my system was potent. However, that relief soon waned as I recognized an unsettling change buried deep within me, a lingering sensation, a flicker from the other side that pierced my very soul. Within the confines of safety, in the human realm supposedly free from unnatural horrors, I found myself haunted by the experiences I could not leave behind. Night after night, my dreams entwined me in visions filled with unsettling landscapes and the insistent whispers of alien creatures, their ethereal voices echoing long after I woke, refusing to be silenced. Every reflection within mirrors appeared altered as if another presence peered back, a shadow, a distortion of my own visage. The transition from dimensions had left me forever changed, and I became profoundly aware that I had not returned alone. Parts of my being remained entangled in the place I sought to leave, and the very essence of whatever had journeyed back with me imbued every waking hour with an unmistakable dread. Now, the mere rustle of leaves or a distant snap of a twig evokes overwhelming fear. Each venture into the forest reignites the buried terrors I tried, unsuccessfully, to leave behind. Transformed irrevocably, I exist within endless echoes of what ought to have been unseen. True terror now resides not solely within the grotesque beings or the altered reality I foolishly wandered into, but lives within the changes rendered upon my very existence. The forest, once my sanctuary and respite, now serves as an eternal reminder of the abyss I dared explore, and the enigmatic whisperings that shall forever haunt my memories, perpetually echoing the unseen. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. I vividly recall the persistent creak of the old floorboards in my grandmother's ancient house, each one like a voice calling from the depths of history, a chorus that sang under the burden of countless years and unspoken secrets. The house itself seemed a relic from an era long past, much like my grandmother, who had journeyed across the ocean from Ireland with nothing more than a small suitcase and a heart overflowing with untold stories. Yet, there was one story she never disclosed, a shadow that remained ever present in the corners of her eyes and in the muted, reverent tones of her nightly prayers. Those prayers seemed to carry a weight I couldn't understand at the time, a solemnity that hinted at something more than mere tradition. When I first moved in with her, I was merely a boy, innocent and blissfully ignorant of the dark tapestry that had been woven into the fabric of our existence. At first, her strange rituals seemed nothing more than an eccentric habit. Each evening, she would light an assortment of candles, their flickering flames casting long shadows across the walls, and she would murmur incantations in a language that was foreign and mysterious to my young ears. I watched as she traced intricate, almost dance-like symbols in the air with her hands, movements deliberate and precise. She assured me it was all part of an ancient tradition meant to keep us safe, to guard us from the things that shouldn't be. Her eyes would sometimes meet mine, holding a depth of understanding that I was yet to grasp. It didn't take long for me to begin to understand what she meant by those peculiar words. It started with whispers, soft yet insistent, rustling through the corridors even when the wind outside lay still. I would hear my name being called from empty rooms, shadows that seemed to flicker just beyond the edge of my vision, always eluding my gaze. At night, I dreamt of a figure standing silently beside my bed, its face obscured and veiled in shadow, a silent sentinel in the dark. The dreams were vivid, leaving me with a sense of unease that lingered throughout the day, a chill that clung to my skin like a second layer. The first time I saw it, truly saw it, I was alone in the dimly lit living room. I turned, and there it was, standing in the doorway. It bore an unsettling likeness to my grandmother, yet something was profoundly amiss. Its eyes were unnaturally dark, voids that hinted at an unknowable depth, and its smile was unnervingly wide, stretching across its face like a crack in the fabric of reality. I blinked, and it vanished, leaving behind only a lingering chill that seemed to seep into my bones. The encounter left me shaken, questioning the very nature of reality and the safety of the world I had known. I rushed to my grandmother, breathless and filled with a nameless terror. She pulled me close, her embrace a refuge against the creeping dread, whispering that it was not her, that it was not anyone. She referred to it as the shadow that wasn't, a malevolent presence that mimicked those it sought to consume, feeding upon fear and thriving in despair. Her voice trembled slightly, betraying the fear she tried so hard to conceal, a fear that had clearly haunted her for many years. As the days turned to weeks, the presence grew bolder, more audacious in its haunting. It would materialize in mirrors, its dark eyes locking with mine before dissolving into nothingness as if mocking my efforts to deny its reality. I would catch fleeting glimpses of it in the garden, standing among the flowers, watching with a silent, insatiable hunger that made my skin crawl. My grandmother's rituals became more frantic, her prayers tinged with desperation as if sensing that her strength was waning. Her hands, once steady, began to tremble as she traced the protective symbols, and her voice, once strong, wavered ever so slightly during the incantations. I gathered the courage to ask her why it was here, why it tormented us so relentlessly. Her eyes, usually so full of warmth and kindness, turned cold and distant, as if looking back along the paths of memory. She spoke of a time long past, of a family lost to the shadows of history. She had managed to escape, but it had followed, drawn irresistibly to the fear that perpetually dwelled within her heart. Her voice was heavy with regret, a sorrow that seemed to echo through the room, filling the spaces between her words with a silence that spoke volumes. Together, we fought to keep it at bay, a relentless struggle against an ever-present foe. I learned the rituals, the strange, burning words that seared my tongue with their power, and the symbols that danced and shimmered before my eyes. We worked in tandem, united in purpose, our bond serving as a shield against the encroaching darkness that threatened to overtake us. Yet, no matter how hard we fought, the shadow seemed to grow ever stronger, its hold tightening like a noose around our lives. It was as if the very act of resisting it gave it strength, feeding off the energy we expended in our attempts to repel it. One ominous night, as a fierce storm raged outside, it came for us with a terrible vengeance. The old house groaned under its oppressive weight, the very walls trembling with its presence as if crying out in protest. My grandmother and I stood side by side, our voices rising in defiance against the oncoming tide of darkness. The air around us crackled with an otherworldly energy, the candles flickering wildly in the tempest as if caught in a dance of life and death. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil within, each crash of thunder a reminder of the battle we were fighting. In that fateful moment, I saw it clearly for the first time. It was neither human nor beast, a shifting mass of shadows and malevolence, an entity born of nightmares. It reached for us, its touch cold and suffocating, like the grasp of icy death itself. I felt my strength begin to waver, my resolve faltering under its chilling gaze. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat a drum signaling the approach of something ancient and terrible. But my grandmother stood firm beside me, her voice unwavering and strong, a beacon of light in the encroaching darkness. She spoke words of power, words of banishment that echoed with the authority of ages. The shadow recoiled, its form unraveling before our eyes like smoke caught in a gale. With a final, anguished wail, it was gone, leaving only a profound silence in its wake. The silence was deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos that had filled the room moments before, a reminder of the fragility of peace. We collapsed into each other's arms, exhausted but victorious, our spirits buoyed by the knowledge that we had triumphed, if only for a moment. The house was ours once more, the shadows banished to the forgotten corners where they belonged. Yet the victory was bittersweet, for I knew deep down that it would return, drawn once more by the fear it had sown within our hearts. The knowledge that it was only a temporary reprieve lingered at the edges of my consciousness, a shadow of its own. In the days that followed, my grandmother's health began to decline rapidly. The battle had taken its toll, her spirit weary from years of relentless fighting against a never-ending darkness. She passed away quietly one morning, leaving me alone in the house that had been our sanctuary, our refuge from the storm. Her absence was a palpable void, a silence that echoed through the halls where her laughter once rang. I continued the rituals in her memory, my voice echoing through the empty, silent rooms that once held her laughter and warmth. I felt her presence beside me, a comforting warmth in the pervasive darkness, a reminder that the shadow had taken much from us, but it could never take the love we shared, the bond that held us together even in the darkest of times. Her memory was a light that guided me, a beacon that shone brightly in the night. As I write these words, I can feel it watching, lurking just beyond the veil, waiting patiently for another moment of weakness. But I am not afraid. I have faced the darkness and emerged stronger, changed but unbroken. The shadow may linger at the edges of my vision, but it will never claim me. I am my grandmother's legacy, a steadfast guardian against the night, a beacon of hope in the endless dark. Her teachings, her strength, live on in me, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. And so, I light the candles each evening, whisper the sacred words that bind me to her memory, and hold fast to the cherished image of her smile. The shadow may be patient, but so am I. It will find no fear here, only the enduring light of a love that was and always will be, a light that shines brightly against the encroaching night, unyielding and eternal. This light, born of love and memory, stands as a testament to the bond we shared, a bond that even the deepest shadows cannot sever. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. In the curious and enigmatic neighborhood where I resided, the legend of the Headless Reaper seemed to inhabit every nook and cranny, echoing ominously through the dim-lit alleys and shadow-laden streets. Whispers filled the air, like ghosts of stories that refused to be laid to rest. Children, with eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement, would gather to share tales of a fearsome figure, an eerie man who rode through the night on a sinister lawnmower. His laughter, sharp and dissonant, was said to be so piercing that it sliced through the velvet night, resonating like a discordant and threatening melody. Ignoring such stories was nearly impossible, as they seeped through the very bones of the neighborhood, weaving themselves into the communal psyche and the landscape itself. The tales of the Headless Reaper were a constant presence, a chilling backdrop to the otherwise mundane rhythm of daily life. They were like an invisible thread, binding the community together in a shared, albeit unsettling, narrative. The stories were passed down from one generation to the next, each retelling adding a layer of mystery and fear. The Reaper was said to be a spectral figure, a ghostly presence that could appear at any moment, his laughter a harbinger of doom. The very thought of him sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest among us. Initially, the tales seemed to hold the weight of mere folklore, a collective creation designed to keep rambunctious children in check or to rationalize the inexplicable noises that tiptoed through our evenings. That comforting disbelief persisted until our neighbor, Lila, inexplicably disappeared. The atmosphere shifted dramatically. Where there had been amusement, now there was palpable dread, slithering through the community like a cold, creeping mist that traced a shiver up your spine. Even the most ordinary of daily tasks transformed into trials of courage. The disappearance of Lila was a turning point, a moment when the legend of the Headless Reaper became all too real. It was as if the stories had stepped out of the shadows and into the harsh light of day. The community was gripped by fear, a collective anxiety that seeped into every aspect of life. The once vibrant neighborhood was now shrouded in a cloak of unease, the Reaper's presence felt in every creak of a floorboard, every rustle of leaves. Traversing homeward alone, fatigued from the hustle and bustle of everyday life, the spectral narrative of the Headless Reaper gripped my thoughts relentlessly. The anticipation and anxiety intertwined, causing my pace to unconsciously accelerate as the shadows stretched longer, consuming the light, and the air grew heavy with nighttime's embrace. Faintly, it seemed, I could perceive the ghostly laughter in the distance, colliding with the murmurs of the wind and the gentle rustling of the leaves around me. It is fascinating how the mind, so easily, crafts illusions that feel so real. Each journey home became a test of nerves, a battle against the creeping fear that threatened to overwhelm me. The Reaper's legend loomed large in my mind, a constant companion on those solitary walks. The shadows seemed to move with a life of their own, stretching and shifting as if to envelop me in their darkness. The air was thick with tension, every sound amplified, every movement magnified. The laughter, though distant, was a constant reminder of the lurking menace, a chilling echo that played tricks on my mind. One particular evening, when dusk had surrendered completely to the inky folds of night, I unexpectedly crossed the threshold from fictional fear to chilling reality. After visiting a friend's house, I found myself detouring through an infrequently traveled path, driven by the desire to expedite my return home. I had inadvertently ventured into the domain of the story. And there he was, the notorious apparition of our macabre stories, solidified in flesh and shadow under the waning glow of a solitary street lamp that flickered like a dying firefly. The searing laughter, so familiar yet so alien, slashed through the tentative silence, shattering the calm and vibrating through my very core. As he turned towards me, our eyes met, or it felt like they did, but his features remained shrouded in an unsettling darkness. In that moment, time seemed to stand still, the world around me frozen in a tableau of terror. The Reaper was no longer a mere figment of imagination, but a living, breathing entity. His presence was overwhelming, a dark force that seemed to drain the very light from the world. The laughter, once a distant echo, was now a deafening roar, a sound that reverberated through my very being. It was as if the shadows had come alive, wrapping themselves around me in a suffocating embrace. In that fateful instant, primal survival instincts surged forward and took control, propelling me into a terrified flight I would have thought impossible. The world around me dissolved into a blur, trees whipping past as my heart drummed a frantic rhythm in my chest. Every corner of my being was attuned to the low, menacing growl of the moor that trailed after me, the shadowy presence closing the distance with alarming speed. I dared not glance back, lest I confirm my worst fears. The flight was a desperate one, a race against a nightmare made flesh. My legs moved of their own accord, driven by a primal need to escape the clutches of the Reaper. The world around me was a cacophony of sound and movement, the growl of the moor a constant companion. I could feel the Reaper's presence, a dark force that seemed to close in on me with every step. The fear was palpable, a living thing that spurred me on, urging me to run faster, to escape the darkness that threatened to engulf me. Reaching home was a triumph marred by lingering angst. I was trembling, breathless, and awash in relief tempered by the unnerving knowledge that the sense of safety was but an illusion. The cackling continued to stalk me in dreams, surfacing in the quiet confines of my mind when defenses were down. Even as months drifted by, failing to erode the initial terror completely, the shadows in my world seemed to stretch endlessly and deepen. The Reaper, though unsuccessful in capturing me physically that night, imprinted upon me a mark indelible and insidious, a shadow that clung with determined persistence, refusing to dissipate. The encounter had left a lasting impression, a scar that refused to heal. The Reaper's laughter was a constant presence, a haunting melody that played on a loop in the recesses of my mind. Even in the safety of my home, I could not escape the feeling of being watched, of being hunted. The shadows seemed to have a life of their own, stretching and shifting as if to remind me of the lurking threat. The Reaper had not caught me, but he had left his mark, a dark stain on my soul that refused to fade. Every rustle of leaves, every distant and familiar rumble of an engine served as a merciless reminder of his lurking presence, always somewhere beyond sight, ever in waiting. My existence transformed into a continuous dance with unease, a silent testament carved from an encounter that twisted a simple legend into a vivid and chilling reality. Although the community struggled to return to normality, and I with it, a shared, unspoken understanding bound us together, his presence was inescapable. Somewhere, embedded in the depths of our collective memory, lay the unyielding truth, an eternal presence whose laughter seeped into the very core of our existence. It had become part of us, a sentient shadow, ever whispering the cold reminder that many stories spring from unsettling truths best left silent and unspoken. The Reaper was a part of us now, an indelible thread woven into the fabric of our lives. His laughter was a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked just beyond the edges of our perception, a chilling echo that refused to be silenced. The community, once vibrant and full of life, was now a place of whispered fears and unspoken truths. We were bound together by the shared knowledge of the Reaper's presence, a collective understanding that he was always there, watching, waiting. The legend had become our reality, a haunting reminder of the power of stories and the truths they often conceal. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. Reflecting on the past, it's challenging to identify the precise moment when everything began to fall apart. Our lives in the modest suburban home where we grew up seemed straightforward and predictable, a serene existence that offered comfort in its routine. The days flowed seamlessly into one another, marked by the gentle rhythms of suburban life. Yet, this tranquility was shattered when my brother Sidney reached the tender age of 4. It was as if an ominous shadow descended upon our family, whispering dark secrets in the quiet corners of our lives, secrets that seemed to grow louder with each passing day. The once comforting walls of our home seemed to close in, harboring an unseen menace that we could not name or understand. Initially, the changes were subtle, almost innocuous, barely noticeable to anyone not living within our walls. Sidney, a bright and imaginative child, was often swept away by vivid dreams that left him restless and uneasy. He would wake in the middle of the night, eyes wide with fear, searching the darkness for something only he could see. Our neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, noticing his nighttime distress, kindly gifted him a plush rabbit toy, whimsically named Mr. Jingles. At first, Mr. Jingles appeared to be a blessing. Sidney clung to the toy as though it were a lifeline, the nightmares that once plagued his nights dissolving under the toy's watchful presence. We all welcomed this transformation, relieved by the newfound peace that settled over our nightly routine. The quiet that descended upon our household was a balm, soothing frayed nerves and allowing us to breathe a little easier. However, as time passed, Sidney's attachment to Mr. Jingles grew increasingly unsettling. He began to engage in endless conversations with the toy, as if they were sharing deep, secretive dialogues. His laughter, once innocent and light, took on a sinister tone, echoing eerily through the halls at odd hours. The sound would often jolt me awake, sending shivers down my spine as I lay in bed, paralyzed by a fear I couldn't quite understand. While my parents dismissed this behavior as a mere phase, I couldn't shake the chill that crept over me each time I passed his room, the air seemingly heavy with an unseen presence. It was as though the very atmosphere had shifted, charged with an energy that was both foreign and frightening. As days turned into weeks, strange occurrences began to punctuate our lives with alarming frequency. Objects inexplicably moved on their own, shadows flickered in places devoid of light, and an overwhelming sense of dread settled over our home. It was as if the house itself had become a living entity, breathing and watching us with an unseen gaze. Sidney's behavior became increasingly erratic, his once bright eyes now glazed over as if he were witnessing something beyond our comprehension. My parents, their concern mounting, whispered anxiously at night, their fear palpable in the dim glow of their bedside lamp. They clung to each other in the darkness, seeking comfort in shared fears that they dared not voice aloud. Desperate for answers, they sought the counsel of doctors and therapists, yet no one could provide an explanation for the darkness that clung to Sidney. It was during this time of desperation that Father Daniel, a retired priest known for his dealings with the supernatural, entered our lives. He was a stern man, his gaze piercing and intense, as though he could see into the very depths of your soul. He listened intently to our plight, nodding with a knowing expression, as if he had encountered such malevolence before. His presence brought a strange mix of hope and fear, the promise of salvation mingled with the dread of what he might uncover. Father Daniel performed a ritual, an exorcism, he called it, in the dim confines of Sidney's room. The air crackled with tension as he chanted, his voice rising above the oppressive silence that filled the space. I watched from the doorway, my heart pounding in my chest, as shadows twisted and writhed around my brother. With a final, resounding command, Father Daniel declared the evil banished, and for a fleeting moment, peace returned to our home. The air felt lighter, the oppressive weight that had hung over us seemingly lifted, and we dared to hope that the nightmare was finally over. Sidney appeared to revert to his old self, his eyes once again sparkling with the innocence of childhood. My parents were relieved, eager to leave the ordeal behind and return to a semblance of normalcy. They embraced the return of routine, clinging to the familiar as a lifeline in a sea of uncertainty. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The house felt different, as if it were holding its breath, waiting for something unseen. The shadows seemed to linger just a little longer, the silence a bit too profound, as if the very walls were keeping secrets. As the years passed, Sidney grew into a seemingly normal teenager, yet the memory of those dark days lingered in my mind, refusing to be forgotten. I couldn't dismiss the way he sometimes looked at me, with an intensity that belied his youthful facade. There was a depth to his gaze that seemed to hold secrets I dared not ask about. I tried to convince myself it was paranoia, a lingering fear from a time I wished to forget, but the feeling persisted, gnawing at the edges of my consciousness. It was a shadow that followed me, whispering of things left unresolved, of darkness that had merely been pushed aside. Then, the incidents began anew, small at first, almost imperceptible. A misplaced object, a fleeting shadow, Sidney's laughter echoing eerily in the dead of night. The whispers returned, insidious and relentless, gnawing at the edges of my sanity. I realized then that whatever Father Daniel had done, it hadn't been enough. The darkness still lingered, biding its time, waiting for the perfect moment to re-emerge. It was a relentless force, patient and cunning, weaving its way back into our lives with a silent determination. The final confrontation came on a stormy night, the wind howling like a beast outside our windows, rattling them in their frames. The storm seemed to mirror the chaos within our home, a tempest that could not be contained. I found Sidney in the basement, his eyes reflecting a malevolent gleam as he cradled Mr. Jingles. The air was thick with tension, the shadows dancing wildly around us, as if mocking our attempts to find peace. In that moment, I felt the weight of our family's unspoken fears, the realization that the evil had never truly left us. It was a moment of clarity, a recognition of the battle that lay before me. Driven by desperation and an overwhelming need to protect my family, I did the unthinkable. The act itself was a blur, a cacophony of chaos and terror, but when it was over, Sidney lay still, the shadows finally retreating into the depths. I stood there, breathless and trembling, convinced that I had saved us all from a fate worse than death. It was a moment of triumph tinged with tragedy, a victory that came at an unimaginable cost. The authorities called it a tragic accident, a young boy's life cut short by a brother's misguided attempt at heroism. They pieced together a narrative that fit their understanding, neatly packaging the horror into something digestible. But I knew the truth. I had not killed my brother. I had vanquished the demon that wore his skin. It was a distinction that mattered little to the world, but meant everything to me. Even now, as I pen these words from the confines of my cell, I feel no remorse. Only a lingering unease, a sense that the shadows are watching, waiting for another chance to whisper their dark promises. The walls around me offer no solace, the bars no protection from the memories that haunt me. I can only hope that my actions have truly set us free, that the echoes of that malevolent force have been silenced for good. But in the quiet moments, when the world is still, I hear them, faint, distant whispers, reminding me that some shadows never truly fade. They linger, waiting patiently, biding their time until they can once again spread their darkness, a chilling reminder that the battle against such malevolence is never truly over. It is a burden I carry alone, a truth that isolates me from the world beyond these walls, yet one that I must bear for the sake of those I sought to protect. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. The evening air hung thick and heavy, one of those stifling August nights that seemed to press down with a weight that was almost tangible. It felt as though the very atmosphere was working against any attempt at comfort, conspiring to make each breath a laborious task. The humidity clung to my skin, a constant reminder of the oppressive heat that seemed to seep into every pore. For months, I had been tormented by relentless headaches, a persistent dull ache that seemed to mirror the tumult within my mind. They were like a constant drumbeat, a reminder of the chaos I couldn't quite escape. My mother, ever the concerned parent, had urged me to rest, to find relief in the cool, artificial breeze of our air-conditioned living room. She worried endlessly, her voice a constant presence urging caution and care. Yet, the walls of our home seemed to close in around me, suffocating in their proximity, and the mere thought of confinement was unbearable. The air inside felt stale, the space too small to contain my restless thoughts. I felt an overwhelming need to escape, to run, to feel the solid pavement beneath my feet, to break free from the prison of my own thoughts. As I tightened the laces on my running shoes, my mother's voice echoed in my mind, a gentle yet persistent plea for caution. Her words were filled with love and concern, a reminder of her constant vigilance. Despite her worries, the urge to flee, to find solace in motion, was overpowering. It was as if the act of running could somehow shake loose the tension that gripped me. I stepped out into the oppressive night, the heat enveloping me like a smothering blanket. The air was thick, almost tangible, wrapping around me as I moved. The streets lay silent, the usual hum and bustle of the neighborhood now reduced to a mere whisper, as if the world itself had paused. The quiet was eerie, a stark contrast to the noise that usually filled the night. I began my run at a measured pace, each rhythmic strike of my feet against the pavement offering a brief respite from the throbbing in my head. The repetitive motion was soothing, a temporary escape from the pain. The darkness of the night served as both a refuge and a shield, concealing me from the world and, in turn, hiding the world from me. The shadows were comforting, a cloak that allowed me to move unseen. As I ran, I concentrated on my breathing, the steady in and out that kept me anchored, kept me sane amidst the chaos. The rhythm was a lifeline, a thread of normalcy in the midst of turmoil. Then, cutting through the silence, I heard it, a sound that pierced the night like a sharp blade. A baby's cry, faint yet unmistakable, drifted through the trees lining the path. The sound was jarring, unexpected in the stillness. I halted, my heart thundering in my chest, the sound both unsettling and strangely compelling. It was an unusual place for a child, especially at such an hour, and the cry was imbued with a desperation that tugged at something deep within me. It was as if the cry reached into my very soul, stirring emotions I couldn't quite name. I found myself hesitating, torn between the instinct to assist and the fear of the unknown. The weight of my phone in my pocket felt significant, a connection to help that I was reluctant to utilize. The device was a lifeline, yet using it felt like crossing a threshold I wasn't ready to face. Yet, the cry came again, more insistent, and I found myself dialing the police, the words spilling out in a hurried jumble. My voice was shaky, the urgency clear in every syllable. They assured me that help was on the way, but as I ended the call, a chill crept down my spine. The sensation was unsettling, a prelude to something I couldn't yet understand. It was then that I heard another sound, a voice, soft and intimate, whispering my name. It seemed to emerge from the shadows, enveloping me like a fog. The voice was familiar, yet distant, as if it came from a place I had long forgotten. This voice spoke of things long buried, secrets I had struggled to forget. It knew of my headaches, of the guilt gnawing at my insides, of the darkness I had tried so desperately to escape. The words were like a mirror, reflecting truths I had hidden even from myself. Fear gripped my throat, yet curiosity, that persistent companion, urged me onward. I needed to know, to understand what was unfolding. The voice vanished as swiftly as it had appeared, leaving me alone with the oppressive silence of the night. The absence was profound, a void that echoed with unspoken questions. The remainder of my run was a haze, my mind awash with thoughts and fears. The path blurred beneath my feet, each step a struggle against the tide of emotions. When I finally stumbled back home, the house seemed altered, as if the shadows had shifted in my absence. The familiar space felt foreign, as if it held secrets of its own. My mother lay asleep, her gentle snores a soothing reminder of the normalcy I yearned for. Her presence was a balm, a touchstone in a world that felt increasingly uncertain. Sleep eluded me that night, my mind replaying the night's events in an endless loop. Each moment replayed with vivid clarity, a tapestry of images and sounds that refused to fade. When morning finally dawned, I was filled with a restless determination. The light brought no answers, only a resolve to seek them out. I knew I had to return to that place, to face whatever lingered in the shadows of my mind. The pull was irresistible, a call to confront the unknown. The daylight offered scant comfort as I retraced my steps along the path. The sun was bright, yet the clarity it offered was deceptive. The trees stood silent, the air heavy with the promise of revelations. The stillness was palpable, a prelude to discovery. I moved slowly, each step a reminder of the fear that had gripped me the previous night. The path was familiar yet strange, each twist and turn a reflection of the journey within. It was then that I discovered it, a small clearing hidden among the trees, a place seemingly untouched by time. The space was serene, a world unto itself. And there, in the center, was an old, weathered cradle, its wood worn and splintered. The sight sent a shiver down my spine, memories crashing over me with an intensity that left me breathless. The cradle was a symbol, a relic of the past that held the key to the present. The voice returned, a gentle murmur carried by the wind, urging me to remember. The words were soft, yet their impact was profound. As I stood there, the pieces of the puzzle began to align. The headaches, the guilt, the secrets I had buried deep, they were all connected to this place, to the choices I had made. The realization was both freeing and binding, a truth that offered both clarity and consequence. In that moment, I realized the darkness I had been fleeing was not an external force, but a part of myself, a shadow I had cast through my own actions. The revelation was stark, a mirror held up to my soul. The relief of understanding was tempered by the weight of the truth, a truth I could no longer ignore. The knowledge was a burden, yet it was also a path to healing. As I left the clearing, the headaches that had plagued me for so long began to dissipate, but the fear remained, a constant reminder of the past I could not alter. The journey had changed me, yet the echoes of what had been lingered. The August night had whispered its secrets, and I was irrevocably changed by what I had learned. The revelations lingered, a testament to the journey I had undertaken, both within and without. The path ahead was uncertain, but it was mine to walk, armed with the truths I had uncovered. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. I always envisioned my retirement as a new beginning, a time filled with serenity and tranquility, a phase in life where I could finally enjoy the calm pleasures of our quaint little town, Brighton Cross. It was supposed to unfold as a gentle era of relaxation, where I could indulge in the slower rhythms of life set against a backdrop of familiar faces and comfortable places, echoing the warmth of community I had come to cherish over the years. My days were to be filled with peaceful walks through the cobblestone streets, leisurely afternoons in the company of decades-old friends, and evenings spent watching the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of peace and nostalgia. However, during the summer of 2023, a cruel twist in fate came forth, disrupting this serene vision and instead plunging me into a reality laced with horror, a waking nightmare that would etch itself indelibly into the landscape of my memory. It was on one such sweltering afternoon in July, when the air hung heavy with an oppressive heat that clung unyieldingly to every surface and seemed to squeeze one's very spirit, that I first perceived something was dreadfully, inexplicably amiss with Frank. Frank was a genial and friendly old gentleman known to everyone in Brighton Cross. Until his retirement, he had been the heart and soul of the Resting Hawk, the town's beloved pub. His affable nature and constant presence had been a comforting fixture in our daily lives, embodying the warmth of community spirit. Over the years, I had come to know him well, understanding deeply that Frank was one to wear his emotions openly on his sleeve, never one to mask what he felt, expressing his heart openly and without hesitation. Yet on this particular day, there was something profoundly foreign and troubling in his gaze, an unsettling void that reached into my own heart and chilled me to my core, far beyond what any heat from the summer sun could achieve. As the late afternoon sun enveloped the cobblestone streets of Brighton Cross in a luscious golden glow, producing ominously long shadows that seemed to gesture towards unseen dangers, Frank ambled into the town square. He did so without his characteristic friendly wave, a habitual greeting every resident had come to expect and return in kind with a smile. Instead, and to our great collective astonishment, he began to scream, his voice a jarring disruption to the peaceful scene. His words were a jumble of incoherence, caught in a wild web fraught with the tangles of paranoia and ominous fear. What began as mere incoherent shouts quickly erupted into an unbearably terrifying spectacle of self-inflicted harm, right there in full view of our disbelieving eyes. We could do nothing but stand frozen, horrified and helpless, as he was overtaken by a violent tempest of madness mere feet away, until finally, as if in resignation, he collapsed on the sun-baked pavement, his form hauntingly still and lifeless. Frank's untimely and tragic death marked merely the beginning of a series of disturbing events. It was not the isolated tragedy we had all desperately hoped it would remain. One resident after another in Brighton Cross succumbed to an inexplicable descent into madness, as though caught in the clutches of some relentless, invisible force that refused to relinquish its grip. The Wilsons, our elderly neighbors who had always exemplified a model of a loving partnership, found themselves torn apart by a frenzy so fierce it shocked everyone, their terror-filled screams slicing through the quiet nights, leaving an indelible horror in their wake. The cherished friendships and long-standing bonds that formed the backbone of Brighton Cross swiftly unraveled, disintegrating with alarming rapidity, even faster than Frank's mortal remains under the harsh July heat. As panic surged through the town like a viral contagion, I found myself barricaded within the usually comforting confines of my home. My windows transformed into portals through which I bore unsettling witness to a world spiraling uncontrollably into chaos. I saw familiar faces morphing into unrecognizable strangers, their eyes hollow and actions erratic. The radio, once a source of connection and community news, now crackled with ominous fragments of an inexplicable, distressing quarantine. The ground beneath our collective feet seemed to shift as it became clear we were trapped, ensnared in a nightmare with roads barricaded, and mysterious figures cloaked in foreboding anonymity stationed at the town's periphery. Their intentions were as obscured and clouded as their concealed faces, leaving us with no help, no escape, only the domineering presence of insanity lurking at our very doors. Under the weight of mounting desperation, those of us who clung to our clarity, those precious few remaining sane souls, formed tentative alliances out of sheer necessity and a drive for mutual survival. Among us was Sarah, the town librarian, whose previously gentle manner was now reinforced with a fierce determination. Ted, an ex-Marine once comfortable in his solitude but now an invaluable crux in our makeshift group, and Emily, a high school senior whose sharp intellect and insight belied her young age, providing guidance and understanding well beyond her years. Together, we crafted a nebulous plan of escape, an endeavor fraught with risk, akin to navigating a tightrope suspended over a daunting abyss shadowed by uncertainties. Each night was transformed into a solemn vigil as we took turns keeping watch, our eyes sharp and unwavering in anticipation of encountering the soulless figures lurking just beyond the shadows, figures that had once been cherished friends and beloved family. Sleep became a rare treasure, and when it did grace us with its temporary presence, it offered scant respite, plagued by nightmares that mirrored our waking fears and dread. By the light of day, we scoured the deserted remnants of our once thriving town for the necessities of survival, moving silently as phantoms through Brighton Cross, our presence as barely noticeable as shadows, averting our gaze from the painful, scattered reminders of human fragility that all too frequently littered our path. It did not take long for the realization to dawn upon us, like a slow creeping chill, that this collective descent into madness was anything but accidental. Beneath the surface of our town lay sinister secrets, long buried yet reeking with malevolence. Echoes of past experiments and hushed whispers of governmental machinations meddling with forces beyond our mortal comprehension surfaced with terrifying clarity, as if taunting the boundaries of our unraveling courage. One day, while sifting through the desolate husk of Frank's forsaken pub, I stumbled upon an old journal. Its pages were teeming with frantic entries, conspiracy theories mingled with accusations of betrayal that once seemed ludicrous, yet now resonated with a truth both disturbing and magnified by the grim reality that had chained us. As unyielding days bled seamlessly into weeks, our resolve solidified into an unbreakable determination. The more we uncovered about the insidious forces in motion, the clearer it became that we were puppets in an elaborate and perilous game stretching far beyond our initial understanding. This realization spurred us to formulate a plan to confront the source of the madness, a dangerous gambit as likely to be our undoing as it was to be our salvation. Each day ended with sunlight retreating hurriedly, as the setting sun cast an eerie, ethereal glow over the ravaged heart of Brighton Cross, illuminating our chosen path with unnerving clarity. What transpired thereafter, I commit to writing not only to exorcise the lingering specters of those memories, but also to serve as a grim warning for you. In our world, shadows indeed exist, sinister plots that warp and disfigure humanity into grotesque, unrecognizable forms. As we ventured into the epicenter of this darkness, an abandoned facility pulsating with malevolent energy, I came to comprehend the monumental magnitude of our struggle and the treacherous path we had embarked upon, layered as it was with unfathomable peril. I cannot speak with certainty of our ultimate fate or success. Nor can I promise that when this account reaches your eyes, I will still be gracing the land of the living, or if I too have succumbed to the chilling fate that claimed my neighbors. But remember this, echoes of madness are reverberating, and it is our solemn duty, those of us who can sense and hear them, to uncover and unmask this truth before it completely devours us all. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. As I sit here, attempting to capture the essence of my experiences in words. A peculiar blend of nostalgia and dread envelopes me, wrapping me in a cocoon of memories that seem to stretch across the vast expanse of time. It's as if I'm being transported back in time to the mysterious events that unfolded in the heart of the Whispering Woods, a place that has since been etched indelibly into my soul. This narrative is more than just a recounting of an unusual adventure. It stands as a testament to the indomitable human spirit, showcasing our remarkable resilience when confronted with the mysterious and inexplicable elements of the unknown. It is a story of courage and unity, of facing the unfathomable with a steadfast heart and a determined mind. Our tale began on a crisp, invigorating autumn afternoon, a day where the air was saturated with the rich, earthy aroma of fallen leaves that danced playfully in the gentle breeze. The sky was a brilliant canvas of azure, dotted with fluffy white clouds that seemed to float lazily across the horizon. It was on this fateful day that I decided to lead a group of local children on an adventurous walk through the enchanting forest that bordered the edges of our quaint town. The Whispering Woods, with its towering, ancient trees and dense, mysterious underbrush, had long been a source of bewilderment and fascination, a place where imagination could run wild and free. Legends wove tales of ancient secrets concealed within its depths, but such stories were often dismissed as mere folklore until that unsuspecting day arrived, changing our perceptions forever. As we ventured deeper into the heart of the forest, an unusual chill settled upon us, a coldness that seemed to seep into our very bones, and the woods seemed to communicate in a language neither our minds nor ears could comprehend. It was as if the forest itself was alive, whispering secrets that only it could understand. It was at this eerie juncture that young Tommy, with his eyes wide with wonder, stumbled upon an intriguing, old leather-bound book, partially buried beneath the roots of a gnarled and twisted tree. Strange symbols shimmered on its cover, catching the dappled sunlight in a mesmerizing dance of light and shadows. Our curiosity inflamed, we huddled closely as I carefully opened the book, revealing a collection of cryptic texts and illustrations that depicted landscapes unprecedented in their ethereal beauty and eeriness, each page a window into a world unlike any we had ever imagined. Unbeknownst to us, this book represented more than a mere relic of bygone eras. It constituted a key, a sophisticated, multidimensional tool capable of bridging disparate realms. As we delved into its enigmatic contents, a low, resonating hum vibrated through the air, a sound that seemed to resonate within our very souls, and before our astonished eyes, a shimmering portal materialized against the backdrop of the forest's verdant canopy. It was an enthralling spectacle, both mesmerizing and terrifying, as the swirling vortex beckoned us with an unspoken promise of adventure yet to unfold, drawing us closer with its irresistible allure, a siren call that was impossible to resist. Our initial wonder and awe swiftly morphed into palpable horror as grotesque, nightmarish creatures began to emerge from the swirling depths of the portal. Unlike anything our eyes had ever witnessed, these twisted entities defied the natural order with their unsettling forms, each one more terrifying than the last. The portal quickly revealed its unstable nature, serving as a precarious gateway threatening to unleash chaos upon our tranquil world, a world that had never prepared us for such an encounter with the unknown. It was as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling before our eyes, leaving us to face the unimaginable. In the face of looming danger, I assumed the mantle of guardian, championing the cause of protecting the children by devising strategies and tactics to repel the advancing nightmares. Each encounter demanded unwavering courage and ingenuity, and with every hard-fought victory, our strength and solidarity as a group grew exponentially. We learned to rely on one another, to trust in our collective strength, and to face each new challenge with determination and resolve. Yet, despite our successes, the threat continued to loom larger and more formidable, transforming the once magical forest into a perilous battleground. The forest, once a place of wonder and mystery, was now a theater of conflict, testing the limits of our resolve and pushing us to the brink of our endurance. Amidst the tumultuous struggle, a profound revelation dawned upon me. The book functioned not only as a key, but also as a communicator, a conduit through which the souls of other dimensions reached out across time and space to our own. This sobering realization brought clarity to the understanding that our actions carried implications far beyond our limited comprehension. We were not merely participants in an isolated adventure. We were part of a larger narrative that spanned worlds and dimensions, each choice echoing with significance, each decision a ripple in the vast ocean of existence. As the instability of the portal escalated, urgency compelled us into action. The children, brimming with courage and resourcefulness, devised a bold plan to close the gateway. It was to be a perilous endeavor, one that demanded we confront our deepest fears and most profound doubts. Yet, united by our shared resolve to preserve our world, we confronted the challenge head-on like warriors driven by an unwavering determination. Together, we strategized and executed our plan with precision, knowing that the fate of our world hinged on our success, that our actions would determine the course of our future. In a climactic, heart-pounding confrontation, our combined efforts triumphed, sealing the portal and banishing the sinister creatures back to their otherworldly realm. Silence descended upon the forest once more, its whispers now reduced to a gentle, soothing breeze that caressed our weary souls. Victorious, yes, but irrevocably changed by the experiences that had tested our resolve. We had emerged from the ordeal stronger and more united, our bonds forged in the crucible of shared adversity, our spirits tempered by the trials we had faced. In the peaceful aftermath, as we made our way back along the familiar path to the safety and comfort of our beloved town, I was filled with a newfound sense of hope and an unshakable feeling of belonging. The children, with their unyielding spirit and bravery beyond their years, imparted invaluable lessons about the power of unity and resilience. The Whispering Woods, with its secrets and unfathomable mysteries, had become an indelible part of our story, a poignant reminder of the extraordinary adventure we shared and the bonds we forged beneath its ancient canopy. The forest, once a place of mystery, was now a symbol of our triumph and growth, a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the enduring power of friendship. And so, as I bring this chapter of my life to a close, I carry forward the lessons learned in those mystical, haunted woods, forever grateful for the courage and camaraderie that illuminated our way through the encroaching darkness. The memories of our journey, the challenges we faced, and the victories we achieved will remain with me always, a testament to the power of the human spirit and the enduring strength of the bonds we formed. The Whispering Woods, with its secrets and mysteries, will forever be a part of who we are, a reminder of the adventure that changed us all. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. On a seemingly ordinary afternoon, the sky was painted a monotonous gray, a color that seemed to mirror the predictability of my day. It was one of those days where nothing seemed likely to disrupt the continuity of mundane events. Yet, fate had other plans for me, a twist I could never have anticipated. My phone buzzed with a message that shattered the tranquility of my routine existence. This message was not from someone I knew. The number was unfamiliar, a strange and unforeseen entry into my digital space. As I opened the message, the atmosphere around me turned cold, as if trying to enforce a stillness in which this message could truly resonate. The words stared back at me, appearing almost alien, begging for interpretation. "Beware the shadow voice," it proclaimed, carrying an air of profound mystery and foreboding. My initial reaction was one of skepticism. I laughed nervously, reasoning it away as an ill-conceived prank. In my conviction, I had neither adversaries nor unresolved conflicts to inspire such targeted words. Surely, no one would aim such disconcerting messages at me without reason, right? Nevertheless, as the sun gave way to the nightly dominion, this unsettling note was only the prologue to a cascade of communications. Each message that followed seemed heavier, imbued with a sense of dread that grew deeper with every new notification. The days that followed were a blur, each one blending into the next as the messages continued their relentless assault on my peace of mind. I found myself trapped in a cycle of anxiety and anticipation, waiting for the next notification to deliver its cryptic message. The shadow voice seemed to know me better than I knew myself, its words cutting through the facade I had carefully constructed over the years. It was as if this mysterious correspondent had access to the deepest recesses of my mind, unearthing fears and insecurities I had long buried. The messages spoke of choices and consequences, of paths not taken and roads yet to be traveled. They hinted at a destiny I could not escape, a fate that was drawing ever closer with each passing day. As night after night unfurled, my once unshakable walls of tranquility started to falter. Despite bodily exhaustion urging me toward slumber, a battle raged within my mind, a battle I could not ignore. I lay in bed, my eyes refusing respite, while my brain churned with questions that refused to dissipate. Who was this spectral figure behind these writings? What did this mysterious voice want from me? The cryptic nature of their messages hinted at choices, consequences, and ominous crossroads ready to plunge me into profound darkness. More disturbingly, they spoke to the shadows of my past, murmurs of secrets I had thought permanently eclipsed from memory, facets of my life buried, hidden even from those closest to me. The perception that this nameless writer could perceive layers of my being, and was pulling ancient fears into the light, was a thought I couldn't dislodge. Each day's passing seemed to invite chaos ever closer, as the structure of my familiar world began to unravel. My work, a fortress of my professional life, felt the tremors most acutely. The once steady flow of focus that defined my career began to waver, with even straightforward tasks becoming insurmountable. It was not long before my boss perceived these cracks in my performance, a stark deviation from my usual competence. My mind, it seemed, had detached, drifting further into uncharted waters. Inevitably, the foundation of my employment crumbled, casting me adrift in uncertainty. Friends, who previously had been my anchors in joy and solace, now seemed distant. Their laughter rang hollow. Conversations once resonant now echoed in dissonance, as though I had stepped into a dimension disconnected from reality, a waking nightmare from which I could not break free. The frequency of these messages increased, each barrage arriving with virulent intensity that dispelled any fantasies of simply ignoring them. The urgency they carried encroached deeply into my consciousness, their insistent warnings of an inevitable decision, a path that seemed to be drawing me inescapably forward. Trapped in this tide, I found my own life slipping beyond control, each message twisting the familiar into something strange and distant. Efforts to dismiss these uncanny correspondents as mere figments, trickster shadows crafted to deceive, proved futile. They burrowed insistently into my psyche, intertwining themselves with my thoughts and undermining any attempts I made to restore peace. Then came that unforgettable evening, ensconced within the cozy elegance of a neighborhood cafe. The ambience that usually provided comfort felt strangely cold against the rising storm within me. Again, the phone's alert pierced the calm, the notification springing to life with dreaded familiarity. The latest message bore words that resonated with chilling clarity. The time has come. My chest tightened under the weight of anxiety pressing down hard, eyes instinctively scanning the room for any telltale signs of presence. Yet all I saw were the ordinary figures of fellow patrons, the comforting clink of conversation and cups contrasting sharply against the internal chaos. In that moment of buzzing serenity, a realization planted itself firmly in my consciousness. The time had arrived for confrontation. I could no longer defer addressing these provocations. Whether the shadow voice hailed from an external reality or was conjured from my own fears, engagement was now imperative. Answers seemed unlikely to be found in the world beyond. They had to be sought within, beneath layers of introspection and residual shadows. Ceaseless messages opened doors to my forgotten past, forcing me to acknowledge decisions that had woven the fabric of my life's current tapestry. In them, I saw a fragmented portrayal of myself, the public debonair facade and the private shadow I urgently strived to come to terms with, yet feared to face. There I sat, enveloped in the refuge of the cafe's quiet, certainty wrapped around me like a shroud. The shadow voice had never been an external antagonist throwing out threats from the void. It was, and had always been, the concentrated embodiment of my deepest fears and unresolved regrets, a shadow woven into the fabric of my consciousness for far too long. I reached an undeniable understanding. Attempting to escape from fate was never within my power. Instead, making the choice of how to confront it was mine alone. I could capitulate, let the shadow engulf me, become another whisper in its eternal darkness, or I could remain steadfast, reclaiming the narrative of my life and forging fresh paths unbound from past darkness. Ultimately, the power to decide rested within me. As I prepared to leave the comforting confines of the cafe, an unanticipated peace fell over me, like a gentle embrace steadying my resolve. Just as mysteriously as they began, the messages ceased, their haunting purposes now served. The road ahead assuredly still held challenges and uncertainties, yet I found within myself a preparedness, an emboldened readiness to face whatever specters lay in ambush from the shadows. The convoluted fellowship with the shadow voice had excavated the depths of my inner being, furnishing me with strength to tackle entrenched fears and uncover the truth of my identity. It had transitioned from an escapade to a confrontation. As I stepped into the night, it was no longer about evasion, but an embrace of a clearer essence of my being, shaping glimpses of someone I was always destined to become. The darkness that once loomed as forbidding and impenetrable was transmuted. It had evolved from being an entity solely to be feared into a significant passage of understanding and self-acceptance, profound personal growth. Found within this newfound reconciliation was a light, a tender beacon of hope cultivated through understanding, guiding me into an ever-expanding horizon of sustained shadows. The days that followed were a blur, each one blending into the next as the messages continued their relentless assault on my peace of mind. I found myself trapped in a cycle of anxiety and anticipation, waiting for the next notification to deliver its cryptic message. The shadow voice seemed to know me better than I knew myself, its words cutting through the facade I had carefully constructed over the years. It was as if this mysterious correspondent had access to the deepest recesses of my mind, unearthing fears and insecurities I had long buried. The messages spoke of choices and consequences, of paths not taken and roads yet to be traveled. They hinted at a destiny I could not escape, a fate that was drawing ever closer with each passing day. As night after night unfurled, my once unshakable walls of tranquility started to falter. Despite bodily exhaustion urging me toward slumber, a battle raged within my mind, a battle I could not ignore. I lay in bed, my eyes refusing respite, while my brain churned with questions that refused to dissipate. Who was this spectral figure behind these writings? What did this mysterious voice want from me? The cryptic nature of their messages hinted at choices, consequences, and ominous crossroads ready to plunge me into profound darkness. More disturbingly, they spoke to the shadows of my past, murmurs of secrets I had thought permanently eclipsed from memory, facets of my life buried, hidden even from those closest to me. The perception that this nameless writer could perceive layers of my being, and was pulling ancient fears into the light, was a thought I couldn't dislodge. Each day's passing seemed to invite chaos ever closer as the structure of my familiar world began to unravel. My work, a fortress of my professional life, felt the tremors most acutely. The once steady flow of focus that defined my career began to waver, with even straightforward tasks becoming insurmountable. It was not long before my boss perceived these cracks in my performance, a stark deviation from my usual competence. My mind, it seemed, had detached, drifting further into uncharted waters. Inevitably, the foundation of my employment crumbled, casting me adrift in uncertainty. Friends, who previously had been my anchors in joy and solace, now seemed distant. Their laughter rang hollow. Conversations once resonant now echoed in dissonance, as though I had stepped into a dimension disconnected from reality, a waking nightmare from which I could not break free. The frequency of these messages increased, each barrage arriving with virulent intensity that dispelled any fantasies of simply ignoring them. The urgency they carried encroached deeply into my consciousness, their insistent warnings of an inevitable decision, a path that seemed to be drawing me inescapably forward. Trapped in this tide, I found my own life slipping beyond control, each message twisting the familiar into something strange and distant. Efforts to dismiss these uncanny correspondents as mere figments, trickster shadows crafted to deceive, proved futile. They burrowed insistently into my psyche, intertwining themselves with my thoughts and undermining any attempts I made to restore peace. Then came that unforgettable evening, ensconced within the cozy elegance of a neighborhood cafe. The ambience that usually provided comfort felt strangely cold against the rising storm within me. Again, the phone's alert pierced the calm, the notification springing to life with dreaded familiarity. The latest message bore words that resonated with chilling clarity. The time has come. My chest tightened under the weight of anxiety pressing down hard, eyes instinctively scanning the room for any telltale signs of presence. Yet all I saw were the ordinary figures of fellow patrons, the comforting clink of conversation and cups contrasting sharply against the internal chaos. In that moment of buzzing serenity, a realization planted itself firmly in my consciousness. The time had arrived for confrontation. I could no longer defer addressing these provocations. Whether the shadow voice hailed from an external reality or was conjured from my own fears, engagement was now imperative. Answers seemed unlikely to be found in the world beyond. They had to be sought within, beneath layers of introspection and residual shadows. Ceaseless messages opened doors to my forgotten past, forcing me to acknowledge decisions that had woven the fabric of my life's current tapestry. In them, I saw a fragmented portrayal of myself, the public debonair facade and the private shadow I urgently strived to come to terms with, yet feared to face. There I sat, enveloped in the refuge of the cafe's quiet, certainty wrapped around me like a shroud. The shadow voice had never been an external antagonist throwing out threats from the void. It was, and had always been, the concentrated embodiment of my deepest fears and unresolved regrets, a shadow woven into the fabric of my consciousness for far too long. I reached an undeniable understanding. Attempting to escape from fate was never within my power. Instead, making the choice of how to confront it was mine alone. I could capitulate, let the shadow engulf me, become another whisper in its eternal darkness, or I could remain steadfast, reclaiming the narrative of my life and forging fresh paths unbound from past darkness. Ultimately, the power to decide rested within me. As I prepared to leave the comforting confines of the cafe, an unanticipated peace fell over me, like a gentle embrace steadying my resolve. Just as mysteriously as they began, the messages ceased, their haunting purposes now served. The road ahead assuredly still held challenges and uncertainties, yet I found within myself a preparedness, an emboldened readiness to face whatever specters lay in ambush from the shadows. The convoluted fellowship with the shadow voice had excavated the depths of my inner being, furnishing me with strength to tackle entrenched fears and uncover the truth of my identity. It had transitioned from an escapade to a confrontation. As I stepped into the night, it was no longer about evasion, but an embrace of a clearer essence of my being, shaping glimpses of someone I was always destined to become. The darkness that once loomed as forbidding and impenetrable was transmuted. It had evolved from being an entity solely to be feared into a significant passage of understanding and self-acceptance, profound personal growth. Found within this newfound reconciliation was a light, a tender beacon of hope cultivated through understanding, guiding me into an ever-expanding horizon of sustained shadows. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. As the radiant sun began its languid descent toward the horizon, the expansive sky transformed into a breathtaking canvas painted with strokes of deep crimson and vibrant gold. The colors blended seamlessly, creating a serene yet ominous atmosphere that wrapped itself around me like a cloak as I stood at the enigmatic brink of the Whispering Woods. This forest, shrouded in mystery and possessing an uncanny allure, had captivated imaginations for generations. An endless stream of tales circulated within our community's lore, each recounting eerie warnings meticulously preserved through the passage of time. These narratives spoke of supernatural whispers that drifted through the dense canopy like ghostly breezes and of elusive shadows that prowled and observed from the forest's impenetrable depths. Every story, woven into the rich tapestry of our heritage, was spoken in whispered tones, as though to avoid summoning the very specters said to inhabit the woodlands. The Whispering Woods had always been a source of fascination and trepidation, a place where reality seemed to blur with the supernatural. The stories passed down through generations were not just tales, they were warnings, cautionary accounts of those who had dared to venture too far into its depths and never returned. The forest was alive with secrets, its very essence intertwined with the unknown. It was a place where the line between the seen and the unseen was thin, where the whispers of the past mingled with the present, creating an atmosphere thick with mystery and intrigue. On that fateful and unforgettable evening, my insatiable curiosity surfaced as an unstoppable force, transcending any trepidation that lingered within my heart. Although I urged myself to remain prudent, a stronger yearning compelled me to explore. Armed only with a flashlight, whose beam flickered like a timid beacon in the encroaching darkness, I set foot beyond the comfort of the tree-line. Confidence, like an ill-fitting garment, hung loosely on my frame, but I pressed onwards into the expansive unknown. The path I followed was narrow and serpentine, winding deeper into the forest's enigmatic core, almost as if it sought to shield itself from any intrusive presence. With each hesitant step, the enveloping darkness grew denser, an imposing gloom that seemed to consume what sparse light my flashlight offered. The sound of crisp leaves crunching underfoot echoed through the stillness, amplifying my presence and creating the unsettling impression that the forest itself was attentively listening. Despite the warm season's embrace, a peculiar chill permeated the air, adhering to my skin like an invisible cloak in defiance of the night's warmth. It was as though the forest exhaled a breath of foreboding, its unseen tendrils clinging to me with an eerie familiarity. With every step deeper into the woods, the trees appeared to close in around me, cocooning me within their shadowy whispers. I strained to discern their murmurs, initially dismissing them as nothing more than the wind's gentle caress through the leaves. However, as I focused more intently, the whispers became clearer, a haunting symphony of nearly coherent sounds, tantalizingly close to understanding. It felt as if the very essence of the forest engaged in secretive dialogues, conversations held just beyond the edge of my comprehension. The deeper I ventured, the more palpable the forest's presence became. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the very trees were holding their breath, waiting for something to unfold. Shadows danced at the periphery of my vision, flickering in and out of existence like specters teasing the edges of reality. The forest seemed to pulse with a life of its own, its whispers growing louder, more insistent, as if urging me to uncover the secrets hidden within its depths. Initially, my courage stood firm, a steady anchor amidst uncertainty, but it began to waver when the night's silence was suddenly rent by the sound of a child's laughter, a sound both foreign and otherworldly. It was an eerie infusion of the inviting and the terrifying, its presence keenly out of place. My thoughts yanked me back to well-documented accounts, tales of innocent children who had ventured into the forest's embrace, only to vanish without a trace, consumed by the forest's unsolved mysteries. The echo of each story urged me to retreat, yet an inexplicable force drew me forward, compelling me to unearth whatever truths lay buried in the shadowed recesses of the woods. The laughter swelled, drawing closer, accompanied now by the gentle padding of footsteps encircling me, invisible yet unmistakably felt. My flashlight faltered, casting erratic and jittery shadows that seemed to mock me with sinister delight, their dark forms sneering as I battled to maintain composure. Panic surged within me, constricting my chest as a vice might hold its quarry. Yet determination overrode my fear, a stubborn resolve gripped me, an adamant refusal to turn back without unveiling the truths hidden within these legendary tales that had fueled the fires of local folklore for centuries. The forest was alive with the echoes of the past, its whispers weaving a tapestry of fear and fascination. Each step I took seemed to reverberate through the woods, as if the very ground beneath me was absorbing my presence, adding my story to the countless others that had unfolded within its boundaries. The air was charged with an energy that was both exhilarating and terrifying, a reminder that the forest was a place where the ordinary and the extraordinary coexisted in a delicate balance. Without warning, the path ceased beneath my feet, vanishing as though swallowed by the earth. I found myself standing in a small, ethereal clearing bathed in the moon's silvery glow. This clearing, an unexpected oasis of calm amidst the forest's tumult, was bordered by ancient stones laid out with deliberate precision and etched with symbols beyond my comprehension. Their presence commanded both respect and awe, as if they had served as vigilant custodians to the unfolding horrors long ago cloaked in this silent sanctuary. It was within this hallowed glade that I confronted it, a ghostly apparition materializing at the clearing's edge, emerging from the shadows. This figure towered above me, its form marked by imposing height and unsettling gauntness. Limbs appeared twisted beyond nature's intended bounds, its eyes glowing with an unearthly, internal flame. Primal terror rooted me in place, seizing control as I watched it move with a chilling grace, silent and swift, closing in with the certainty of a predator claiming its prey. Desperation ignited a fierce instinct within me, a refusal to yield to the encroaching darkness. Spinning on my heel, I fled in blind panic, diving into the forest's embrace with a reckless abandon that propelled me forward. Branches clawed and raked at my skin, leaving behind a lattice of stinging marks, but I pressed on, driven by an unyielding will to survive. The creature pursued with relentless intent, its presence hauntingly inescapable, its breath chillingly close upon my neck, punctuated by a low, menacing growl that reverberated through the woods. My heart thundered within my chest. I felt its icy fingers graze my shoulder, a dreadful warning of the darkness that awaited should I falter, even momentarily. On that interminable night, adrenaline emerged as my solitary ally, fueling my desperate flight through the oppressive maw of the forest until, at last, I burst free onto the soft, forgiving grass at the edge of the tree line where the village awaited. Civilization, with all its familiar comforts and reassurances, felt transformed in my absence into something unsettlingly alien and fragile, a delicate illusion threatened by the weight of memories from what lurked beyond. In the days that followed, I found myself ensnared within a cycle of relentless reflection, my mind compulsively replaying the harrowing events of that night, each moment dissected and relived in granular detail. My efforts to recount the story were met with disbelief and skepticism, earning only dubious and worried glances from those who listened. Yet despite the doubts cast upon my tale, I understood the truth. The forest harbored secrets that transcended our tangible reality, a realm where nightmares coalesced in the twilight's hazy embrace. Despite the haunting terror that had indelibly marked my soul, a fragment of my spirit remained inexplicably entwined with that forest, bound by an unyielding desire to comprehend the unknowable. The woods had etched themselves into the very fabric of my being, their whispers now woven inseparably into my internal landscape, beckoning me with their insistent, haunting call. Perhaps one day soon, I would summon the courage required to heed their summons and return. Until that day arrived, my story would serve both as a caution and an invitation, an enduring testament to those possessing the resolve to venture into the veiled depths of shadow and silence, daring to confront the heart of darkness itself. As the radiant sun began its languid descent toward the horizon, the expansive sky transformed into a breathtaking canvas painted with strokes of deep crimson and vibrant gold. The colors blended seamlessly, creating a serene yet ominous atmosphere that wrapped itself around me like a cloak as I stood at the enigmatic brink of the Whispering Woods. This forest, shrouded in mystery and possessing an uncanny allure, had captivated imaginations for generations. An endless stream of tales circulated within our community's lore, each recounting eerie warnings meticulously preserved through the passage of time. These narratives spoke of supernatural whispers that drifted through the dense canopy like ghostly breezes and of elusive shadows that prowled and observed from the forest's impenetrable depths. Every story, woven into the rich tapestry of our heritage, was spoken in whispered tones, as though to avoid summoning the very specters said to inhabit the woodlands. The Whispering Woods had always been a source of fascination and trepidation, a place where reality seemed to blur with the supernatural. The stories passed down through generations were not just tales, they were warnings, cautionary accounts of those who had dared to venture too far into its depths and never returned. The forest was alive with secrets, its very essence intertwined with the unknown. It was a place where the line between the seen and the unseen was thin, where the whispers of the past mingled with the present, creating an atmosphere thick with mystery and intrigue. On that fateful and unforgettable evening, my insatiable curiosity surfaced as an unstoppable force, transcending any trepidation that lingered within my heart. Although I urged myself to remain prudent, a stronger yearning compelled me to explore. Armed only with a flashlight, whose beam flickered like a timid beacon in the encroaching darkness, I set foot beyond the comfort of the tree-line. Confidence, like an ill-fitting garment, hung loosely on my frame, but I pressed onwards into the expansive unknown. The path I followed was narrow and serpentine, winding deeper into the forest's enigmatic core, almost as if it sought to shield itself from any intrusive presence. With each hesitant step, the enveloping darkness grew denser, an imposing gloom that seemed to consume what sparse light my flashlight offered. The sound of crisp leaves crunching underfoot echoed through the stillness, amplifying my presence and creating the unsettling impression that the forest itself was attentively listening. Despite the warm season's embrace, a peculiar chill permeated the air, adhering to my skin like an invisible cloak in defiance of the night's warmth. It was as though the forest exhaled a breath of foreboding, its unseen tendrils clinging to me with an eerie familiarity. With every step deeper into the woods, the trees appeared to close in around me, cocooning me within their shadowy whispers. I strained to discern their murmurs, initially dismissing them as nothing more than the wind's gentle caress through the leaves. However, as I focused more intently, the whispers became clearer, a haunting symphony of nearly coherent sounds, tantalizingly close to understanding. It felt as if the very essence of the forest engaged in secretive dialogues, conversations held just beyond the edge of my comprehension. The deeper I ventured, the more palpable the forest's presence became. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the very trees were holding their breath, waiting for something to unfold. Shadows danced at the periphery of my vision, flickering in and out of existence like specters teasing the edges of reality. The forest seemed to pulse with a life of its own, its whispers growing louder, more insistent, as if urging me to uncover the secrets hidden within its depths. Initially, my courage stood firm, a steady anchor amidst uncertainty, but it began to waver when the night's silence was suddenly rent by the sound of a child's laughter, a sound both foreign and otherworldly. It was an eerie infusion of the inviting and the terrifying, its presence keenly out of place. My thoughts yanked me back to well-documented accounts, tales of innocent children who had ventured into the forest's embrace, only to vanish without a trace, consumed by the forest's unsolved mysteries. The echo of each story urged me to retreat, yet an inexplicable force drew me forward, compelling me to unearth whatever truths lay buried in the shadowed recesses of the woods. The laughter swelled, drawing closer, accompanied now by the gentle padding of footsteps encircling me, invisible yet unmistakably felt. My flashlight faltered, casting erratic and jittery shadows that seemed to mock me with sinister delight, their dark forms sneering as I battled to maintain composure. Panic surged within me, constricting my chest as a vice might hold its quarry. Yet determination overrode my fear, a stubborn resolve gripped me, an adamant refusal to turn back without unveiling the truths hidden within these legendary tales that had fueled the fires of local folklore for centuries. The forest was alive with the echoes of the past, its whispers weaving a tapestry of fear and fascination. Each step I took seemed to reverberate through the woods, as if the very ground beneath me was absorbing my presence, adding my story to the countless others that had unfolded within its boundaries. The air was charged with an energy that was both exhilarating and terrifying, a reminder that the forest was a place where the ordinary and the extraordinary coexisted in a delicate balance. Without warning, the path ceased beneath my feet, vanishing as though swallowed by the earth. I found myself standing in a small, ethereal clearing bathed in the moon's silvery glow. This clearing, an unexpected oasis of calm amidst the forest's tumult, was bordered by ancient stones laid out with deliberate precision and etched with symbols beyond my comprehension. Their presence commanded both respect and awe, as if they had served as vigilant custodians to the unfolding horrors long ago cloaked in this silent sanctuary. It was within this hallowed glade that I confronted it, a ghostly apparition materializing at the clearing's edge, emerging from the shadows. This figure towered above me, its form marked by imposing height and unsettling gauntness. Limbs appeared twisted beyond nature's intended bounds, its eyes glowing with an unearthly, internal flame. Primal terror rooted me in place, seizing control as I watched it move with a chilling grace, silent and swift, closing in with the certainty of a predator claiming its prey. Desperation ignited a fierce instinct within me, a refusal to yield to the encroaching darkness. Spinning on my heel, I fled in blind panic, diving into the forest's embrace with a reckless abandon that propelled me forward. Branches clawed and raked at my skin, leaving behind a lattice of stinging marks, but I pressed on, driven by an unyielding will to survive. The creature pursued with relentless intent, its presence hauntingly inescapable, its breath chillingly close upon my neck, punctuated by a low, menacing growl that reverberated through the woods. My heart thundered within my chest. I felt its icy fingers graze my shoulder, a dreadful warning of the darkness that awaited should I falter, even momentarily. On that interminable night, adrenaline emerged as my solitary ally, fueling my desperate flight through the oppressive maw of the forest until, at last, I burst free onto the soft, forgiving grass at the edge of the tree line where the village awaited. civilization, with all its familiar comforts and reassurances, felt transformed in my absence into something unsettlingly alien and fragile, a delicate illusion threatened by the weight of memories from what lurked beyond. In the days that followed, I found myself ensnared within a cycle of relentless reflection, my mind compulsively replaying the harrowing events of that night, each moment dissected and relived in granular detail. My efforts to recount the story were met with disbelief and skepticism, earning only dubious and worried glances from those who listened. Yet despite the doubts cast upon my tale, I understood the truth. The forest harbored secrets that transcended our tangible reality, a realm where nightmares coalesced in the twilight's hazy embrace. Despite the haunting terror that had indelibly marked my soul, a fragment of my spirit remained inexplicably entwined with that forest, bound by an unyielding desire to comprehend the unknowable. The woods had etched themselves into the very fabric of my being, their whispers now woven inseparably into my internal landscape, beckoning me with their insistent, haunting call. Perhaps one day soon, I would summon the courage required to heed their summons and return. Until that day arrived, my story would serve both as a caution and an invitation, an enduring testament to those possessing the resolve to venture into the veiled depths of shadow and silence, daring to confront the heart of darkness itself. The echoes of those eerie whispers from that unforgettable camping trip continue to resonate within me, persisting not only in the darkness of the night, but also in the serene solitude of my introspections. What commenced as a seemingly typical adventure rapidly unraveled into a sequence of 6 profoundly disturbing narratives, merging into one collective nightmare that none among us could ever quite forget. Driven by the exuberance of youth and a relentless curiosity, we reveled in the thrill of embracing the unknown, always ready to embark on another expedition. Yet, the spectral encounters that unfolded beneath the dense, embracing canopy of the forest left us grappling with fears and visions beyond the scope of our wildest imaginations, challenging our very perceptions of reality and imagination. These experiences, vivid and unsettling, etched themselves into our memories, leaving us with a sense of unease that lingered long after the adventures had ended. Each whisper, each shadow seemed to carry with it an ancient story, a narrative of the forest that was both enchanting and terrifying, pulling us deeper into its enigmatic embrace. The forest seemed to breathe with life, its whispers growing louder and more insistent, as if urging us to delve deeper into its mysteries. We found ourselves drawn to the shadows, unable to resist the pull of the unknown, even as it filled us with dread. Our journey embarked on the first night at a scouting camp, nestled deep within the heart of the Polish wilderness. This retreat was an opportunity to reconnect with the natural world and escape the relentless cacophony and frenetic whirlwind of city life that often enveloped us in its demands. As we pitched our canvas shelters beneath a vast, sprawling sky, dazzling with innumerable stars, a profound tranquility seemed to embrace us entirely. My friend Lucy and I were entrusted with the night watch, and our laughter punctuated the stillness of the night as shadowy figures danced in the flickering firelight, accompanying our light-hearted tales. For a while, everything was idyllic. Yet, beneath this veneer of perfection, something sinister began to unfurl quietly. It started with a gentle rustling, a sound so subtle it might have seamlessly blended with the night's natural symphony. Then came the faint whispers, ominously drifting among the trees as if the forest itself were exhaling hidden secrets, secrets intended solely for the night. Nervously, we exchanged glances, initially weaving humor into the notion that it might simply be the mischievous wind, weaving its craft through the auditory landscape of the forest. However, our smiles dimmed into unease as we distinguished a shadow, an ominous, dark, wet figure, lurking just beyond the comforting glow of the embracing firelight. It vanished as swiftly as it materialized, leaving behind a chill that pierced us to our very cores and compelled us to reevaluate the boundaries between reality and imagination. between a tangible threat and our own deepest fears, forcing us to confront the unknown lurking in the shadows. This night marked the beginning of our understanding that the wilderness held more than just natural beauty. It concealed mysteries that defied explanation and demanded our respect and caution. The forest, with its towering trees and whispering winds, became a living entity, a keeper of secrets that were both alluring and terrifying, drawing us in with its enigmatic charm yet warning us with its haunting presence. It was as if the very essence of the forest had awakened, its whispers growing louder and more insistent, urging us to delve deeper into its mysteries. Our subsequent adventure transported us to the untouched vastness of Canada's ancient woods, where towering forests stretched far and wide into the horizon. Eagerly, we immersed ourselves in exploring the maze-like paths, irresistibly drawn in by the forest's mysterious allure and its whispered promises of hidden wonders. By day, the forest emerged as a serene spectacle, a breathtaking landscape basked in the warm, golden embrace of sunlight, offering a peaceful haven from the chaos of everyday existence. The tranquility of daylight provided us with a false sense of security, a temporary respite from the memories of our previous encounters. Nightfall, however, brought about a palpable transformation. As darkness descended upon the forest, we gathered once more around a crackling campfire, absorbed in the timeless act of storytelling. Josh interrupted abruptly, asserting that he had unmistakably heard his name being called from the foreboding shadows of the woods. Initially skeptical, we dismissed his claims, attributing them to his girlfriend's playful joke. However, the calls soon metamorphosed ominously into desperate, blood-curdling screams for help, utterances that soon took on a chillingly familiar cadence. We were left unnerved by the realization that the voice was undeniably Josh's, despite his unwavering presence by the campfire, highlighting a disconcerting truth. Something within the woods sought to flawlessly imitate him, endeavoring to lure us into the shadowy depths, relentlessly testing not only our bravery but the very fabric of our sanity, shaking our confidence and making us question our own senses. The forest, once a place of beauty and exploration, had become a realm of shadows and deception, where nothing could be trusted and every sound carried the weight of potential danger. The once welcoming woods now seemed to harbor a malevolent intelligence, a force that thrived on our fear and confusion, weaving a tapestry of deception that left us questioning the very essence of reality. The forest, with its vast expanse and hidden depths, became a labyrinth of shadows, where every step seemed to lead us further into a world of mystery and danger, challenging our perceptions and testing our resolve. Upon returning home, we sought comfort in the familiarity and perceived safety of our own backyard, the notion of camping there seemingly innocent yet reassuring. However, this seemingly simple decision spiraled into a baffling mystery that lingered persistently in our memories. I had painstakingly arranged a cozy night under a starlit sky with my girlfriend, Emily, striving to craft the ultimate backyard sanctuary that was both intimate and tranquil. As the night progressed, fatigue overtook me, and I drifted into a fitful slumber, only to be jolted awake and find Emily inexplicably missing. Panic seized me as I searched frantically through the eerily silent and deserted backyard, my heart pounding with each agonizing moment. My frantic search led me indoors, where I found her, as if nothing untoward had occurred, inexplicably asleep on the couch. When she awoke, Emily insisted she had no recollection of leaving the confines of the tent. Yet, something about her eyes unnerved me. A peculiar shadow lingered there, as if something unseen, intangible, had brushed against her spirit, imparting an otherworldly presence that left a mark unseen yet deeply felt, a silent reminder of the mysterious forces at play. This incident, though occurring in the comfort of our home, echoed the unsettling experiences of our previous adventures, reinforcing the notion that these mysterious forces were not confined to the wilderness but could reach us anywhere, challenging our sense of safety and normalcy. It was as if the very essence of the wilderness had seeped into our lives, blurring the lines between the natural and the supernatural, the known and the unknown, leaving us with a lingering sense of unease that permeated every aspect of our existence. The shadows that had once haunted us in the wilderness now seemed to follow us home, their whispers echoing in the corners of our minds, reminding us that the unknown was never far away. Each disquieting encounter seemed to point toward an unfathomable and eerily unnerving phenomenon, a creature or force, perhaps, thriving upon the intricate threads of fear, silently lurking and watching from the shaded alcoves of our collective consciousness. It felt as though we had inadvertently unveiled an ancient enigma, one cloaked in darkness and malevolent intent, a sinister presence preying upon unsuspecting campers, greedily consuming their deepest anxieties. These experiences left us with an overwhelming, enduring sense of dread, as if we had inadvertently ventured into a realm beyond our comprehension, where dark forces quietly resided, obscured within the vast, untamed wilderness, waiting for the opportune moment to reveal themselves. The patterns of these encounters suggested an intelligence, a strategic manipulation of our fears that left us feeling vulnerable and exposed, as if we were pawns in a game we could not understand. The wilderness, with its infinite beauty and allure, had become a theater of shadows, where unseen actors played out a drama of fear and intrigue, leaving us as mere spectators in a story that defied explanation. It was as if the very fabric of reality had been altered, leaving us to navigate a world where the boundaries between the known and the unknown were forever blurred, challenging our understanding and testing our resolve. Reflecting on these harrowing incidents, I am more convinced than ever that we encountered something that defies any logical understanding, a sinister presence, veiled and concealed within the wild, always lurking, ever waiting. This unnerving memory endures as a haunting reminder in my thoughts, compelling me to caution all adventurers who seek the thrill of the unknown. Never relinquish your guard under the cloak of nightfall. The darkness conceals more than just the absence of light. It harbors the power to echo back your deepest fears with chilling clarity, inexorably drawing you into its entwining mysteries, enigmas that might be better left undisturbed. The wilderness, despite its infinite beauty and alluring enchantment, harbors secrets, dark, menacing secrets that wait silently and continuously for the unwary to wander too close. Within the depths of its shadowed embrace, the whispers grow ever more deceptive, testing the resolve of all who dare venture beyond the safety and warmth of the firelight's reassuring glow, urging caution and respect for the unknown. As I continue to ponder these events, I am reminded of the delicate balance between curiosity and caution, adventure and safety, and the ever-present need to respect the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding, hidden in the shadows of the world around us. The wilderness, with its vastness and mystery, remains a place of wonder and fear, a realm where the boundaries of reality and imagination blur, leaving us to navigate its enigmatic depths with both awe and trepidation, forever changed by the whispers that continue to echo in the wilderness of our minds. The shadows that once haunted us in the wilderness now seem to follow us wherever we go, their whispers echoing in the corners of our minds, reminding us that the unknown is never far away, urging us to tread carefully and respect the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. I never imagined that a simple camping trip could turn into a nightmare that would haunt me for years. My name is Ethan, and this is the story of how I lost my brother, David, to a monstrous entity known as the Candleheart, and how I became its next target. The memories of those days remain vivid, etched into my mind as if they happened yesterday. Every detail, every emotion, every sound still echoes in my thoughts, refusing to fade away. It all began 2 years ago, shortly after our father's passing. The grief was still fresh, a heavy burden that weighed on both of us. David and I decided to go camping in the dense woods near our childhood home, hoping to relive the fond memories of our youth. We thought the escape into nature would provide solace, a temporary refuge from the complexities of the world and the pain of our loss. The forest had always been a place of peace for us, a sanctuary where we could forget our troubles and immerse ourselves in the beauty of nature. Little did we know, it would soon become a place of terror, a setting for a nightmare that would change our lives forever. The first day of our trip was filled with laughter and nostalgia as we set up our tent and gathered firewood. We reminisced about the carefree days of our childhood, playing hide and seek among the trees and listening to the gentle rustle of leaves. The sun filtered through the canopy, casting dappled shadows on the ground, and the air was filled with the scent of pine and earth. As night fell, we sat by the campfire, sharing stories and roasting marshmallows, feeling the warmth of the flames against the cool night air. The crackling fire provided a comforting glow, a beacon of warmth and safety in the encroaching darkness. It was then that we first noticed something strange, a flickering light in the distance, deeper within the forest. It was faint at first, a mere glimmer that danced on the edge of our vision, but it grew more pronounced as the night wore on. Curiosity got the better of us, and we decided to investigate. Armed with only a flashlight, we ventured into the woods, the darkness closing in around us. The path was narrow and winding, the trees towering above like silent sentinels. Each step seemed to echo in the stillness, a reminder of how alone we were in that vast expanse of wilderness. As we drew closer to the source of the light, an uneasy feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. The air grew colder, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. The usual sounds of the night, crickets chirping, leaves rustling, had vanished, leaving an eerie silence that heightened our apprehension. Suddenly, we stumbled upon a clearing, and there it was, a towering figure, seemingly human, yet not quite. It stood motionless, holding a lantern that emitted an eerie, flickering glow. The creature's eyes were hollow, and its face was obscured by shadows, but I could feel its gaze piercing through me. It was as if the very essence of fear had taken form, and I was powerless to look away. The light from its lantern cast grotesque shadows that seemed to writhe and twist, creating a surreal tableau of terror. Before I could react, David was seized by the creature. Its long, sinewy arms wrapped around him, pulling him closer to the flickering light. Panic surged through me as I shouted for him to run, but it was too late. David was dragged into the ground, swallowed by the earth as if it had opened up to claim him. The sight was surreal, a nightmare unfolding before my eyes, and I was helpless to stop it. His screams echoed in my ears, a haunting reminder of my failure to protect him. I ran. I ran faster than I ever thought possible, my heart pounding in my chest, my mind a whirlwind of fear and disbelief. The forest blurred around me, branches clawing at my skin as I fled. I didn't stop until I reached the safety of our campsite, collapsing in exhaustion and terror. The fire had died down, and the darkness seemed to press in from all sides, a suffocating reminder of what I had just witnessed. I lay there, shivering and alone, unable to comprehend the horror of what had just transpired. The next morning, I searched for David, calling his name until my voice was hoarse, but there was no trace of him. It was as if he had vanished from existence. The authorities conducted a search but found nothing. They chalked it up to a tragic accident, a young man lost in the wilderness. But I knew better. I knew that something unnatural had taken him, something beyond comprehension. The official explanations offered no comfort, no closure, only a hollow emptiness that gnawed at my soul. 2 years passed, and the memory of that night never left me. I became obsessed with finding answers, scouring every piece of folklore and legend I could find about the Candleheart. I delved into ancient texts and whispered tales, seeking any clue that might lead me to the truth. But all I uncovered were fragmented tales of a creature that lured souls with its light, a harbinger of despair. It was a puzzle with missing pieces, a mystery that refused to be solved. Then, one fateful day, a package arrived at my doorstep. It was a small, unmarked box, and inside, to my horror, was David's mask, a handcrafted piece he had worn during our childhood games. The sight of it sent chills down my spine, and I knew that the Candleheart had not forgotten me. It was a message, a reminder that the past was not yet laid to rest. The mask was a symbol of innocence lost, a tangible connection to a time when life was simpler and happier. The nights that followed were filled with restless sleep and haunting dreams. I could feel its presence lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. I was determined not to fall victim to the same fate as David. I had to confront the Candleheart, to end this nightmare once and for all. The fear that had once paralyzed me now fueled my resolve. I knew that I had to face the darkness, to confront the entity that had taken so much from me. Armed with a lantern of my own, I returned to the forest, retracing the steps that had led to our encounter. The familiar path seemed different now, haunted by memories and shadows. The trees whispered secrets, and the wind carried echoes of the past. As darkness fell, I found myself once again in the clearing, the air thick with anticipation. The Candleheart emerged from the shadows, its flickering light casting eerie patterns on the trees. This time, I was ready. I held my lantern high, its steady glow cutting through the darkness. The creature hesitated, its hollow eyes fixated on the light. I could feel its power waning, the flickering of its lantern growing weaker. The air was charged with tension, a silent battle of wills between us. I could sense its confusion, its uncertainty, as if it recognized that I was no longer the frightened boy it had encountered before. With a surge of courage, I stepped forward, confronting the entity that had taken my brother. The Candleheart let out a mournful wail, its form unraveling like smoke in the wind. In that moment, I understood that it was not a creature of malice, but a lost soul seeking release. It was a guardian of the forgotten, a keeper of the night. Its light was a beacon, a call to those who had strayed from the path. As the first light of dawn broke through the trees, the Candleheart faded away, leaving behind only the soft glow of my lantern. I knew then that David was truly gone, but his spirit was finally at peace. The forest was silent once more, a sanctuary restored. The sun's rays filtered through the leaves, casting a warm, golden light that dispelled the shadows of the night. I returned home, the weight of the past lifted from my shoulders. The forest no longer held the same allure it once did, but I had found closure. The Candleheart would trouble me no more, and I could finally begin to heal. The journey had been long and fraught with fear, but it had also been a path to understanding and acceptance. I had faced my demons and emerged stronger, more resilient. Though the memory of that night will forever linger in my mind, I have learned to embrace the light, to cherish the moments with those I love, and to never forget the brother I lost to the flickering shadow. The experience has taught me the value of courage and the power of the human spirit to overcome even the darkest of fears. It has reminded me that even in the midst of despair, there is hope, and that the bonds of family and love are unbreakable. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away.